And all right, so thank you. Teresa, you'll do roll call?
Yes, absolutely. Joycelyn? Here. Lori?
Here.
Michael?
Here.
Ron? That's everyone's here except for Ron.
Okay.
All right. We're going to go over the agenda. Steve, are you going to go over the agenda, or I need to take a motion to approve?
Yeah, just a motion to approve the agenda unless anybody has anything additional to add to the agenda today. I mean, it's just basically, as you see before, it's talking about the preliminary budget and just other review. So,
Lori, this is Joyce, and I'll move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Do I have a second?
This is Michael. I second.
Okay. All right, then the agenda has been approved, and
technically, Lori, you still need to call for a vote, even though
I'm sorry.
already
Okay. we don't have very many people to vote other than those two, but okay.
Yeah, I know. It's a formality.
It's an easy vote.
All right, may I have a vote, please? The yeses?
Yes.
All those?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right, so let's move on to the minutes. All right.
I'll move approval of the minutes.
All right, do I have a second?
Sure, it's Michael. I'll second that too.
Thank you.
All right, and so all those in favor?
Aye or yes?
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? And anyone abstaining? Okay, so they are approved. All right, so now is Quan going to go over there? Who's talking about the technology budget? Steve, is that you?
Yeah, Brian and I can talk about this.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So yeah, Brian Gash is in the room with us, and this is, I don't think we've changed this at all since last month, but the idea,
Not changed.
yeah, but the idea was to share with you what we were thinking about last month and give you an opportunity to think about it, ask questions, and then potentially vote on it if you want to. But we didn't feel right about springing this on you for the very first time today and then including it in the budget for tomorrow night. It just seemed like it was too fast. So Brian, do you want to just go over everything, just remind everybody real quick about the
Sure.
technology initiatives for 22-23?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty standard stuff this year. So you can see at the top the 01-5330. That's the core kind of IT technology budget. We've got the top line there listed subscription services that has things like our Microsoft contract. It has a ton of stuff in it. There's a giant spreadsheet that does all of this, but that's all of our core contracts and services that we use to kind of keep all the technology stuff going. There's some contingency in there to handle like laptop purchases, tablet purchases, all those types of things are in there. Wiring, just miscellaneous stuff that we need is all in that budget. And then the next line, we have a line item to update the fundraising and foundation website update. So that is that's for Diana's group that ties in with Blackbaud and our Razor's Edge fundraising stuff. We want to update that website next year to kind of get that up to modern standards. So we've got a budget for that for next year. Any questions on that part?
Yeah, this is Michael. Go ahead, Lori.
No, you go ahead, Michael.
Well, I was just kind of curious, Brian, on the subscription services. Mm-hmm. Is there any way to see a breakdown of what all that is?
Yeah, I mean, we can set that right, Steve. So
I'm just kind of curious. about that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too. I mean, we're talking about almost 1.8 million, and I'd like to see kind of what those are as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But one thing to note is that those subscription services, that includes many of our includes all of our databases.
That's the bottom. That's
the
the
bottom.
electronic resources. So
Okay.
this is all like, that is all like Microsoft, our CRC contract for our ILS, all of our support for our self-checks, all of that kind of stuff is all in that.
So that's not magazine subscriptions, that's
No,
subscriptions to run
Yeah.
our systems.
Yeah. That's all the stuff that we use to handle our phone system. All of that stuff is all in that technology budget. So, yep. Yeah, we can get you a breakout of that. So,
Yeah, I'm just curious. I've never, seen that broken out, and I just would like to see it, I guess.
yeah, sure.
I think we can send that this afternoon, can't we?
Oh yeah, I can. That's easy to pull out.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
I'll pull out just all the stuff that we're subscribing to for all of that. So you can see the next section is like voice, data, internet, 015570. Obviously, all of our communication stuff is all for internet services. The hotspots are included in that section under the public internet services. That's all broken out of the core technology budget. It's a separate budget for voice, data, internet. All of our branch connections, that we run a hub and spoke setup. So all of the branch connections come back here to the headquarters. And then we have one giant internet connection that leaves here and goes out to the internet. So that's all under the branch connections to HQ. And then we have not a lot. We have quite a few broadband connections that go into branches for various services that we do. Some of it's like Google Fiber for our Wi-Fi in a few places. We still have quite a few landlines, and these operate like fax machines, elevators, all of that type of stuff. And that's what's in that bottom line down there for voice, data, internet. And so any questions on that part? That's all internet and data line services. So, and like I said, the MiFi, the hotspots for customer checkouts are in there under public internet services too. So.
And so I also wanted to ask a question about this. So my question was going to be, so we're looking at like this 6.5 from this year for this next budget. What was it for last year? And kind of like, have our expenses increased significantly, or were we able, because a lot of other things are going up, a lot of data storage and phone things, some of those have come down. And so like, you don't have long distance, you don't have some of those things. So I wondered if we had any cost savings, or if we're just continuing to increase.
The core technology budget goes up a little bit every year, primarily just due to like inflationary things. Like a lot of that stuff just kind of increases over time, but it's not a lot. I got that. It's actually, we're real flat from last year. Like the core technology budget is up like $60,000 from last year. The voice, data, internet is up about $100,000 from last year. The only reason it is because it has all of the hotspots in it now. That's the primary reason. The data connections, the internet connections, all of that stuff all stayed the same. And then the next line, the electronic resources that Joycelyn was talking about, which is all of our research databases, alltutor.com, the universal class, all those things that we provide online. That budget is pretty much flat from last year. We do have to, all the vendors charge us a little bit inflationary raise every year. So, but it's pretty much flat. So for the most part, it's very flat. Even from the last 3 or 4 years, it's still pretty flat. You can always do like a 3 to 5% increase just due to the stuff going up a little bit over time. But really over, like I said, 3 to 5 years, it's all been pretty flat.
Actually, Brian, I can add a little bit to this. So two things. First of all, in terms of the subscriptions, the one that always drives me nuts is our ILS. That's integrated library system. That's sort of like the main core system that runs all of our check-in, check-outs, all of that. And my feeling is that their maintenance and service subscription costs are not in line with what they should be. And typically, this is what happens in library land. And we've had this vendor since 2000. I think we started the migration, or we signed the contract with them in 2003. And it just increments up a little bit over time. And when you get this as far out as we have been, almost 20 years now, then what ends up happening is that increment gets sort of out of whack. And the way that you hold them honest is that every so often you put this out for an RFP or an RFQ, and lots of times that will encourage your vendor to drop the subscription cost. And we haven't done that. We haven't done that, as I said, in nearly 20 years. And so that's something that is on the horizon. Brian and I have been talking about that once the capital program was over, that we should look at potentially putting this out to bid, not just to help save money, but also timing it so that when the capital program is over, if we do actually migrate, if the best option is to go with another vendor, we're going to need a lot of capacity. And so waiting until the capital program's over is kind of the right time to do that. So that was point number one. Point number two is, while Brian was talking, I actually pulled up the presentation from last year to see what our budget numbers were. Our total technology and data and e-resource budget for last year was $7.9 million as opposed to $6.5 million this year. In terms of core technology, last year core technology was 1.7, actually 1.76. This year it's 1.79. So virtually the same, like Brian was saying. The internet charges last year was $904,000. Just looking at it, that just kind of eyeballing those numbers, it looks like
it's about $1 million even.
Yeah, it's about $1 million even. So it's a little higher. That one's a little bit higher. And then our virtual branch services, I think that's where those are a little.
It doesn't have
everything in it.
It doesn't have ebooks in it.
Doesn't have the ebooks in it.
Yeah.
And so that's where the real difference in the number is. But when you look at those research databases and online learning, and you look at the similar line here, it's 2.6 million, and it's 2.6 million last year, 2.7 million this year. So yeah, I mean
this has career online. The electronic resource has career online high school in it, which will change here. And then, like I said, the voice data internet, it's 100,000 more because we're having to pay for all of the hotspots.
And that's really what makes up the difference.
Yep.
So really, looking at the budget in terms of trend, it's very flat.
Right. So I have another question. I'm sorry, Jocelyn. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of getting in the weeds, and it kind of goes back. So the ebooks are not in this budget, but they were last year.
Yeah. They're not really we just always included them there because they were part of the virtual branch.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So where is that now? Is that
it's in collection. It's
always been in collection.
It's always come out of collection.
And then to back on that, because I know during 20 and 21, we increased the ebooks to meet demand because our doors were closed. Has that come back down to where it was, or are we keeping that capacity?
Actually, Susan and I talked about this just last week, and our ebook numbers are going to be our ebook budget expenditures are going to be a little bit higher this year than budget, but physical print is still lower, so it's a wash.
Okay.
It's transitioning a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we got people too used to ebooks.
I will go back to one thing, Steve, you said about the CRC vendors. There's really only two main vendors out there. So there's a couple of off brands and open source vendors that you can use, which I would never recommend using. So we're just so big. But there's Triple I, which has Sierra and Polaris products, and then there's CRC. Those are the two big vendors. So they got us over a barrel just a little bit on that stuff. But yeah, there's really they've all slowly gobbled up the other vendors is what's happened.
So are they offering like, I know that, I work for, since that's kind of what I do, is I'm wondering are there any services that in the past we've hosted or paid for that they're offering, like the other companies, like that they're including more now that maybe they didn't include in the past, like, maybe some storage or something as a part of that integrated library services, like that them. And you said, what's the other vendor besides ILS?
So there's two real main vendors. There's CRC Dynex, and that's who we currently have. And then there's Triple I, and they bought up a major vendor that had a product called Polaris, and so they're the other major vendor is Triple I. And they store all of our data with those products. So all of our book data, customer data, all that kind of stuff is all stored by them, but they don't offer any other services like, like we can just host our own servers with them or store extra data with them. It's only related to their software product. And it's the same with everybody that does that. Microsoft being the exception, we can sign up for whatever we want to host through Microsoft, through our Microsoft 365 services. But Blackbaud, Paycor, all the rest of the vendors that we use that host software as a service stuff for us, that's all you can do is just have what you're paying for with them. You can't host extra stuff with them. So.
Right. No, I just didn't know if what they offered in 2003 is not the same thing they should be offering now. I mean, surely they've, improved their stuff and maybe you guys are getting upgrades as you've gone along and I see. And with Polaris, So the other
absolutely. They do a lot of updates. It was about it's more than that, about 8 or 9 years ago is when they started hosting everything for us. So they take care of all the server maintenance, all the software updates to that. We do have a higher level of access than most people have to our server because we have so much custom programming going against that. So our annual cost for that's a little bit higher. But
to your point, Lori, back when we migrated initially to CRC Dynex, we had mini computers in our data room, and we actually hosted everything locally. When we first migrated to the Blackbaud Financial Edge financial software, everything was everything is still hosted with that one, but we're looking to potentially migrate that someday in the future. But yeah, our big data room was actually full of stuff that we physically hosted, and a lot of that has moved, which is offsetting hardware costs that we're saving money in hardware, but paying more for subscriptions. But generally speaking, that model that I was talking about, where they just add a little bit every year, and then eventually over time they just get really expensive. It's just the way it works because you're just working with really just two companies, and the only way to get them to sort of knock that down is to do an RFQ at some point. But I would argue that we are probably getting, not probably, we're getting more for our CRC Dynex subscription today than we were in 2003.
We do get great support from them and great help from them. So yeah, we get a lot for it. So.
Right. Yeah. And so how much of that so is that under the subscription services budget? And then how much of that budget is that? Like, is it half or 3/4?
So the CRC Dynex part is about $270,000. Microsoft's close to $200,000. All of the support for our RFID hardware and software, self-checks, all of that stuff is like another 100 and it's 150 or 60,000, 170,000, I think. I mean, there's like 5 things that make up like half of that budget.
Right.
And then there's a ton of just smaller stuff in there. So.
Sure. Sure. Well, that helps, and I think that just like Michael had asked, just for us to see that and to look for ways. I mean, I really respect your idea because if you have AT&T and you go to Google Fiber and you're like, hey, well, this is what I'm paying with AT&T. Well, we'll beat that for 2 years, but then every 2 years you've got to revisit those things, and so I know that that's part of the ongoing maintenance, and that takes up time to revisit those things. But if they're doing well for us and they're keeping up with their own technology, sometimes the benefit of not changing is also a savings.
The Searcy stuff from a staffing perspective was kind of a heavy lift for us, because that was by far our largest virtual server that we had to manage and maintain all the time. It was custom software, and so it was a fairly heavy lift for us. So getting that off of our shoulders was a big deal. And then they just take care of everything. So that was pretty huge for us. The staff savings and that stuff was big. Also, just the storage needs for it was pretty big. We haven't had to increase the amount of storage that we've needed because of that. Because we were able to offload that. Plus, we have a testing and training server with them also. So we can train with one that's set up for training. And then we have one that we can test updates and do things with. We have kind of an advanced agreement with Searcy because we're so big. So
I had a quick comment.
Yeah.
And I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying, and that's what's not reflected in this budget is that we can't readily see. It's reflected, but we can't readily see are the savings. We have costs, but there's savings on the other side. Our self-check machines have allowed our staff to be more available for our customers than ever before. Our not having to handle all the software maintenance and all that is a cost savings on us. We probably have to hire a few more staff positions to manage that. So there's some cost savings in there that we can't readily see that these electronic services provide for us. The second thing is it's really difficult for MCPL, and you guys know this, I'm talking to mainly Michael and Lori. It's really hard for us, MCPL, to compare ourselves with other libraries because we are one of the largest consumers and users of these databases. Other libraries have much lower percentages of things dedicated to this and collections than we do. They have much more higher overhead costs than, as far as percentages than we do. So we're the number one consumer, and I think we're still the number one consumer and distributor of interlibrary loan stuff.
Yeah, well, top 10. We're a top 10 borrower and lender in
Top
that.
10 borrower and lender.
And we are definitely in the top 5. I haven't looked at it recently because the data just got updated, but top 5 in terms of licensing online content.
So these numbers represent heavy use and heavy volume. So while the numbers look big, if you break it down per user compared to other libraries, I think we'd be comparable, if not under, but it's hard to do so. And there was a third point I was going to make. Oh, and if you ever went to a conference like PLA or ALA, they take note when they see MCPL on your nameplate because we're well respected and we're known as one of the larger ones in the library industry. So that's all.
The other thing I can tell you real quick on the voice data internet lines is we do get, for public internet services and the branch connections, we do get E-rate funding back for those, which accounts for about 55%. And that's accounted in another line item in the budget. So we do get about 55% of those costs back. And then this year, at the end of the year, we do have to put all that back out for a contract renewal. And I've already been told it should be cheaper for the next contract go around. So I do look for those line items to be less when I show them to everybody this time next year. So, which is good. So moving on. So the last thing was just the capital fund technology for self-checks and the PC print reservation, and the KCI kiosk that's out there in the capital fund also. So that brings us to the total. No, go ahead, Laura.
I have a question about the I have been wondering this since our last meeting, and I want to ask it while it's fresh. I have 4 or 5 other questions, but I want to start with the kiosk. So since that was in the bid for the city, like that was in their bid that they did, is there any funding available for that, or is that going to have to come out of our funding?
No, we actually approached the vendors to ask to participate. And so this is actually our participation in this. I mean, they could have chosen not to include us in their participation, but yeah, I mean, this was our, it was our offer to help them. And actually we've been talking, and by we, I want to say it wasn't the board, it was staff's been talking with KCI for 10 years about trying to do something at the airports. And even before they were talking about building the new airport, we were talking about trying to do something in the existing airports. And so this has always been something that we were trying to do independently. And this was the solution we came up with.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. And so does that go with our ebook? I know you said the ebook subscriptions were higher. Will that have to increase our ebooks subscription anymore for people to check those out?
I wouldn't think so. Because, well, I mean, the way, because a lot of this is speculation, but I'm basing this based on conversations I've had with the owner and manager of the Overdrive collection that set up the similar model in San Antonio. And when he set that up, of course, anybody who has an existing account, an existing library account will be able to check out anything that they normally would. And you could do that anyway. The only difference is we're just sort of reminding people that they can do that. We will probably put a handful of things in there that do not have licensing limitations on them, but those will be things that we will contract with Overdrive, and he's got some stuff in mind for that anyway. So shouldn't cost us anything additional based on conversations I've had with him.
Okay. And my next question is I know that the Biden administration was talking about possibly doing some funding for like internet and, so I wondered if like our hotspots or even, I know that you said that there was some funding that we were getting back for our voice data and internet. Will any of that impact us as a library to have more funds available to us?
I mean, it should if we can get access to it. Sure, we'll try and do that. Absolutely.
Okay.
So we just got to watch and see what happens. So.
Yeah, and how they roll out the program,
yeah.
because the Wi-Fi program that we did have was a government program. I mean, it was a government grant program that we applied for and got funding to do. The external antennas for external Wi-Fi at our branches was a federal program that we applied for to get that service.
Chromebooks to go.
The Chromebooks to go are
we're all paid for.
A lot of the like rural broadband and things like that they've been talking about in terms of the infrastructure bill aren't really last mile. They're to help build out to communities. So like, for example, make sure that you've got fiber running to Atherton, Missouri, for example. Because we have high-speed internet in all of our communities where we have libraries, we've already kind of helped them do that. I mean, Edgerton, Camden Point, and Dearborn have high-speed internet in their communities because we subscribed to that years ago. So a lot of what they're talking about is helping to build out the middle mile and not necessarily the last mile. But with that said, Brian will keep his eyes on things and make sure that we're not losing an opportunity.
Yeah, we did real well on the use of the grant money. I mean, it paid for the hotspots for a little over a year. So we did really well with that. Like Steve said, we've added hotspots, all grant funded. The Chromebooks were all grant funded. Access Wellness was grant funded. So yeah, we've done really well with that. I think that's one of the reasons why the core IT budget has stayed flat, because we've made use of that kind of money. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So does that something that is that our team, or is that is that Diana's team that kind of works with us and partners with us on those type of, that's grants and funds? Is that their team that works with, or is that our team that works with those?
Well, we work with Diana and her group a lot on these. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then if they hear of anything, then they clue us in on that also. But yeah, we work with them a lot.
Okay, great. My next question goes back to the ILS. Is that a yearly contract, or are we doing, I know you said we've had it for almost 20 years. Is it a 5-year contract, a 10-year contract? What are we signing with them?
It's historically a multi-year contract. I think we're coming to the end of a 5-year contract here in the next a year or 2 years. So yeah.
Now I do need to jump in and point something out. I mean, by Missouri law, government entities can only enter into annual contracts, but there's a provision that's known as the subject to appropriation provision, which basically means that that you can contract for multiple years, so long as there is a way for you to exit before the contract expires.
Right.
And so we take advantage of that in lots of opportunities, so that we can get those multi-year discounts. But there's always a provision within the contract that allows the contract to be ended, subject to annual appropriation, which makes it legal within the state of Missouri. So just had to get these out of the way.
That's the only multi-year that we actually do that I can think of right off the top of my head. Everything else is year to year. So, and it's really just to get a price break, believe it or not. So.
Right. Yeah. I just, working for a software as a service company, I understand the benefits to us as the end user with that contract coming up, that we have the right to be wined and dined by both sides to say, hey, what can you offer us the most? So I just wanted to hear, kind of what that is, because it is a great opportunity for us to, see the latest and greatest. So I appreciate that.
Yep.
Well, I've learned so much. Thank you very much for explaining that. And Steve, I do understand now. Thanks for explaining some of that about the, the broadband in some of those rural areas, because I thought we had some, but you really helped me shed some light on that. So thank you for that also.
Yeah, we actually, several years ago, Lori, we committed to get fiber, last mile fiber to every one of our branches. Now, we may not be running at full fiber optic capacity because we don't need to, but we've got that built out. And because we've got it built out, because we built out our last mile, they had to build out the middle mile. And in fact, this is one of my very favorite stories. I mean, this is back when Brian and I both had a lot more and a lot darker hair. Is we were talking with, I think it was United Telecom or Sprint back then, and telling them that that we needed to run we need to upgrade our lines into places like Camden Point, Dearborn, and Edgerton. And I think we were moving from a 56K to a 256 or something like that. And they said, oh, no, that can't be right. And we're going, no, that's what we need, because, we need to run our ILS. We're going to start putting internet computers in there, so people need to browse the internet with Netscape. And we need to be doing all of that. So we need to go up to 256. And they said, that's impossible, because if you have 256, you'll be taking half of the full capacity of the entire town, because I guess they only had like a 512 line running into the entire town, which also had a school and of course all of the POTS lines and all of that. And it was at that point that we kind of realized what an engine the public library can be to helping to bring high-speed internet and capacity into communities. And after that, they had to run a T1 in there to satisfy us, and And then they just had to continue to keep up ever since then. So,
Trench many miles of wire for us.
yes.
So.
And so, Steve, do we have any POTS lines that, because I know they're going away. I'm not sure if it's this year or next year.
Yeah, there's just a handful, like Brian was saying early on, that and it's mostly due to old regulations that we've got. So, for example, you're required to put a POTS line, and Michael, I know Joycelyn knows this from many years on the committee, but POTS stands for Plain Old Telephone Service, POTS, and you have to have a POTS line as an emergency line in an elevator, for example. And so we've got POTS lines going into our various elevators, but we don't have many other than that, do we, Brian?
Yeah, we still have them for like all the security panels.
Oh, security panels, right.
Panels have to have like a backup line, but we're going to start retroing those to like a cellular service. And so, because it's cheaper, believe it or not. But yeah, every branch has one for security system. We have them for the elevators and some fax machines that the public use out there. So, but we're transitioning a lot off of that. So
yeah, frankly, the sooner we can get away from them, the better. But I know that the elevators have certainly been a bane of the existence, that we've really wanted to get away from elevators, but you just can't because of various.
It has to be a dedicated line too. You can't even share it with someone else.
Yeah.
It has very specific rules about how you use them. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just at a convention and I was learning about the the elevator lines and what a pain it's been for not just libraries, but for every company that has it, because they all have those. And then, hey, we're getting rid of plain old telephone lines. What are we gonna do? So it's like I just wondered if I'm thankful that you guys are already working on that.
Yeah.
I had a quick question on that line. Now we have high-speed internet to fiber to most of our branches.
All of our branches.
Including Blue Ridge?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So that's no longer, what was it, satellite before?
It was that. Yeah.
We've had fiber. We've in the AT&T footprint, which is about 22 of our locations. We've had fiber for 10 or 12 years. Long time.
And this is a little off topic, but how does that branch out into the community? Are they now able to get those services where they weren't before?
Yeah, so this is the old economic development argument behind high-speed internet, and one of the reasons why other why larger governments want to bring internet, because when a customer wants to bring in that last mile and wants that certain speed, then the company has to build the middle mile and has to build it out from the central office. What happens in a smaller community, like say a community like Buckner, for example, or Camden Point or Weston or someplace like that, when we say we want to have fiber optic capabilities or fiber optic lines at our branches, then they have to build that giant pipe going into the community, of which a small part goes to us at the last mile. But that other capacity is there. In some cases, it's dark; it's not turned on yet, but it has to be built, because once they cable, they won't just tunnel for just our line. They'll build enough capacity to meet other future demands, which then does allow other people in the community to potentially buy where they couldn't in the past. And so there was an old, Laura, you may just know about this just from your history, but some of these old central offices, sort of the first ring suburb central offices, like Raytown, for example. It was one of the first ones, and so it had the oldest technology. And because it was a first ring suburb, people were moving away, which meant that there wasn't as big or as hot a market for high-speed internet at places like Raytown, our Blue Ridge branch, Grandview, sort of certain communities in Independence, up through Excelsior Springs, for example. And what you just couldn't get high-speed internet there. There wasn't a market driver. And we were saying we wanted it, but we weren't enough to get them to replace all that infrastructure. Well, Google Fiber was the one who actually did it. When Google Fiber came to town and said, we're going to do this all over, then suddenly AT&T said, oh, I guess maybe we should upgrade our stuff to stay market competitive. At which point then we, because Lori, we used to have satellite internet at a couple of our places. but you're going to be shocked when I tell you which places it was. It was Blue Ridge, it was Grandview. I think we had it at South Independence for a little while at one point, and it's because it was this old central office equipment, and there was no competition to upgrade the infrastructure. But as soon as Google Fiber came to town, then AT&T upgraded the infrastructure, and then we were able to help buy out, upgrade where we needed to go, which upgraded the middle mile, and then has helped the other communities. So.
We did have fiber at those locations before Google Fiber.
We did, but
We did,
what was there was some issue, but what was it? Why were we having that satellite? Because we were running the separate Wi-Fi line.
That's what it was for.
That's
It was
what it
for
was.
separate Wi-Fi.
It was for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we've had fiber at our core branch in our AT&T footprint for quite a while. The Windstream locations that are in Sprint United, like Camden Point, Dearborn, Edgerton, you just kind of go around the edge. We just 5 years ago got fiber in those. So yeah,
That's good. Thank you.
And so how do we have all of our offices then connected? Like we're all on the same database, like we can pull everything up. How are we connected to each other? Through fiber?
Yeah, it's all fiber. So it all comes back here to our headquarters facility. And then we just have one giant internet connection that goes out from here. It's not really even that big. It's like a 5 gig connection. So, but yeah, and then they're varying speeds. I mean, believe it or not, we're pretty conservative on our data connection speeds. We just didn't go out when we got fiber and just say we're going to put gigabit connections or 2 gigabit connections everywhere. They're only 250 megabits is all they are. But we monitor those all the time and make sure that we have enough bandwidth. And we've never really needed to increase it, even with the Wi-Fi on it. It's worked very, very well. So we were pretty conservative on that to make sure we weren't just spending money that we didn't need to. So yeah, it's worked very well. So the AT&T stuff especially has worked wonderfully. So we've had very good luck.
So I know with some of the technology things that they're doing, a lot of companies are using like SD-WAN instead of the fiber lines, and that's usually a little bit cheaper. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, have you looked into like looking into some of that SD-WAN stuff or?
At the Sprint United locations using Windstream, we are doing SD-WAN.
Okay.
So, yep. That's the only way they'll let you do it is SD-WAN. They won't let you do it any other way. The AT&T side is basically just a giant private network just for us. So, and it's really cheap, unbelievably. The Windstream, the Sprint United side, just because they're out in rural areas, are considerably more expensive. And when we put the fiber in and we signed that new contract for that in those nine locations, you do have to pay what they call the last mile construction cost, and they spread that out over the term of the contract. So we are paying extra for that. And that's one of the reasons why that branch connections to HQ is kind of high, because it has all of that in it. But when we re-sign our contracts for next time, none of that construction cost stuff will be in there. That's going to be a huge savings right there. And then also they've told me that it should be less, but we'll go out to bid for that, and whoever comes in that has the best bid for us, we'll probably go with. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. But you're right. There is a lot of SD-WAN stuff out there. That's what Comcast offers. That's what AT&T has an SD-WAN. But because we're right in the middle of AT&T's footprint in Kansas City, we just have private connections. So they go straight from the building to here. So
my next question is, can we approve this budget without having the breakdown and seeing that? Or do we need to delay that till after we see that breakdown this evening?
It's up to you as to what you want to do. You could vote to recommend this without seeing the detail, or you could vote to recommend it, pending the detail, and choose not to. I mean, if you look at it and you're still not satisfied, you could choose Lori as the chair to not recommend it tomorrow night. So you sort of vote to recommend pending everybody looking at it and feeling comfortable. We've done that before in committees before, where people have just generally said, yeah, we're 95% comfortable, and if we can get another piece of data to look at, it'll be fine. That's been done before, or choose not to. You could choose not to recommend.
Right.
Really
Well,
up to you.
right. I mean, approving a budget that I haven't seen a breakdown of is, it's a little scary. So I would like to, I understand this is a preliminary budget, and then I would like to make it contingent on actually seeing the breakdown of the budget. Because it's a preliminary budget, it's not set in stone. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen tomorrow night is that there's going to be, I mean, we have a budget draft, or staff has a budget draft that's based on these numbers. And the entire board will get a copy of that budget and have an entire month to ask questions about it, to ask us to make modifications and changes, to negotiate modifications and changes with fellow board members, all of that. So yeah, I mean, so even if this is a recommendation from the committee, this is not carved in stone. It will not become
Right.
carved in stone, if you will.
We would have a
until
month.
June.
We would have a month afterwards. Okay, thank you. Because we would have a month afterwards to review the technical details to make any modifications. So if that's the case, then I'm okay with voting on this preliminary budget, and then saying we'd like a breakdown, and then if it passes tomorrow night, that still gives us a month from tomorrow night to review any of the details. And if there's something that, Jocelyn or Ron or Michael is, or myself find something on, that we could always tweak before the actual budget goes in.
Yes, Lori, I would say though, I would prefer not 30 days because we have to pass a budget by June 30th. Otherwise, it kind of monkey wrenches our entire system. So if we wait till the last meeting and then having to go back and change the budget and meet again, it's really, I would say if we could take a look at it as soon as possible to feel comfortable with recommending it, that would be the best course of action.
Right. So then, like, if we get it emailed out tonight, then we would have less than. So do we need to schedule another meeting then, like or either a week from now or something after we've gotten the breakdown and vote to send this preliminary budget? And then can we do an email with any questions, or do we want to meet again next week, like on Monday, same time, to if there's any questions, we could do it via Zoom. Michael, what are your thoughts?
This is Steve. Let me make a suggestion in terms of procedure. If you're generally comfortable with the direction we're going, realizing that our numbers are very similar to the numbers last year, then you can make that recommendation and say that you're still looking to have additional detailed information that we'll be sending you. And if you have an opportunity to take a look at the information tonight and say, oh my gosh, this is terrible, then you could then we could have a real quick meeting and you all could choose to withhold that recommendation tomorrow morning. But yeah, the numbers are very similar, and And just one more thing in terms of budgeting policy, the authority of, I'm trying to remember what Quan calls this, the level, that's what I call it. The level of control for the board is at the line level. So like that large line, the 015330 line is kind of where your authority is. Going below that is sort of where the staff authority is. But that, I mean, it's okay. We want to share that information with you and make sure that you're feeling informed and educated. But yeah, your authority is sort of on that top level, and we're sort of more on the micro level. But no, we'll share it with you. We open book. We really we really don't care if you want to see it. But we can manage. We typically have managed at that more micro level. But we'll send out that, and then I want to make sure that I understand the request. So in terms of the request is really the detail on the subscription and maintenance services. Or are you interested in seeing all of the account level detail below all of the maintenance lines, or is it just that subscription service line?
Well, I personally, I mean, we're spending $6.5 million of, taxpayers' budgets as a committee. And I understand that, I'm not saying, you can't spend it on this book. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I want to at least see, I mean, it's our responsibility to budget the $6.5 million and just saying subscriptions. I want to be able to say, oh yeah, these are the subscriptions that we're in. I'm not saying I want to, I just think that it's a good steward of $6.5 million of taxpayers' money to ask to see what it's the breakdown of. That's all I'm asking.
Yes, that is true. That's true, Lori. However, I would caution the board from getting too much into the weeds. It's okay to look at it and say, yeah, these fit under that category. These are appropriate for the library. Go ahead. But to say, no, do this versus that I don't think is our prerogative. And I'm not saying that you're saying that, but getting into the weeds, that can be perceived as that. And that's not in our wheelhouse. Our wheelhouse is at 6.5 million to say, these are the categories. These are the things that go under that category. Yeah, we can look at the minute details. I've done that before. When I was treasurer, I looked at all the little minute details, but at some point, and I would say below that line item, like Steve was mentioning, we're really getting into micromanaging. And I think with this particular budget, these categories, with few exceptions, like the kiosk, these are things that the library has been paying for years. So this is a pretty standard budget, but I would feel comfortable being on this board as long as I have, approving this, looking at the categories, but I don't really see a reason, unless there's something in the budget for buying Brian a Cadillac, which is not in there. But
I can put that in there?
No,
Okay.
but barring that, these are things that are pretty standard that have been covered for years. So I don't see a reason to kind of halt
right, but
the
maybe
process.
I haven't been on the committee. I haven't been on the committee for years, and I don't know what's on those things, and I'm not comfortable signing my name saying I'm going to spend $6.5 million of taxpayer money and not even seeing what we're spending it on.
I'm not saying not to see it. Take a look at it, yes. But I'm saying that our responsibility ends at the 6.5. If there's something that doesn't clearly belong in there, yeah, point it out. But and take a look at it, go as deep as you want. But I'm saying our ability to, our responsibility is at that 6.5 million, if that, because we do not run the day-to-day. We could say we shouldn't be paying for this, but we don't recognize all the things that those things touch. That's a staff level decision. But yes, we should be informed. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And as a
Well-
newer committee member, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because you haven't had a chance to dive in, neither you or Michael, Lori or Michael have really dove into this before. So we're
Yeah.
comfortable showing that. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, good, because this is Michael and same situation. I've never looked at any of this because I'm newer on the committee, and honestly, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
And it's not about diving into the weeds or anything like that, but I have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility just to take a look at things.
Right.
And I'm not saying we're looking for anything. I just want to know. I've never seen it.
Mhm.
So is that okay? I mean,
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm sorry
Absolutely.
if I didn't mean to come off like that. What I was trying to say is that I, having been on the board for a long time, I'm very comfortable with the budget. And I am saying, take a look at it. But what
That's
I'm
great.
asking, I guess, is saying, let's do so in a way that keeps us on track to get this budget approved.
well, I'm not saying not do that. I realize you've been on the committee for a long time, but that's not my experience.
Yeah, and I recognize that.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
Lori either. So anyway, I don't think it's, again, I just want to use your term, looking into the weeds. I never even thought of that. I'm not looking for that. So I just want to take a peek, I just want to take a look because I think I'm responsible. We're all responsible. And it just seems like common sense to me.
For clarity, I wasn't talking about looking into the weeds. I was just getting into the weeds. Getting into weeds is a little bit different. Getting into weeds, I meant let's not say do this versus that type of thing individually. As a board, we can't set direction. And I'm sorry, I'm not putting this on you. I'm just mainly saying, and I guess I'm not communicating right today.
No.
I apologize,
No.
Michael, and I apologize, Lori. And I know I've been on the board a lot. I was just saying, for me, this is
Okay.
my case. For you, yes, look into the budget. I already have. Look into the budget. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can put this on myself, for example. Whenever I serve on a board, I have a tendency, because of what I do here, I have a tendency that when somebody shows me details, I tend to, that becomes an invitation for me to go into those details and to look at it at a micro level. So I have to be really careful about that. It's just a personality trait that I have. But I absolutely understand what you all are saying. It makes all the sense in the world. So we can get you more detail. In fact, Brian usually shared, in fact, I know we've already got more detail that what goes into creating each one of these lines that you see on this table.
Have details.
Yeah, we've got it.
We have
It's
details.
and so we'll get that packaged up and sent to you this afternoon. And then the one thing that does kind of get in there that is a little bit different is that electronic resources and some of the detail that's in that, because that's really not in the, we've got our 3 buckets at the library. We've got our personnel bucket, and we've got our materials and program, books. We've got that bucket, and then we've got our operations. And this almost all is in operations, with the exception of those electronic resources. The electronic resources, ebooks, and all of that is actually in the collections side of the budget. Probably belaboring a point that is maybe it's a distinction without a difference, but it's just something that I wanted to make sure that I point out.
That one will be difficult for us to, we do have a giant spreadsheet that has that in it. That one's going to be fairly difficult to pull out a detail on. But yeah, we can work on that for you. But the technology, the voice data internet, those are no brainers. I already have that. That's easy.
Yeah, that 01 5200 line. The next line below that does tend to get to be the individual title of a book that we would potentially be looking at, which we really don't know, because we don't know what's going to be published in August or September.
It's a huge spreadsheet that has all of our historic spending and all of that stuff in it. So yeah, we'll have to pull that. I have to figure out how to pull that out of what we have. So,
but you have some type of a spreadsheet that come up with 6.5 million. I know you do.
Yes.
There's no way you just pull these numbers from thin air. So I'm not asking you to give a account of every book you want to buy or I just want to see, how did we get to these numbers? I want to see a breakdown of,
Sure.
okay, I'm spending $6.5 million. You're asking me to be the committee chair of how we're spending this money. I just want to know. I mean, it's like, I can take it at face value, but you know, we're the ones who are standing to the community saying, okay, where are we spending that money? Well, we're putting it on subscriptions. What subscriptions? I don't know. So I just think it's being a good steward.
Right. It makes all the sense in the world.
Do that.
Yeah.
All right. So with that said, I would like to see those, so we can either do another quick meeting tomorrow after we've seen the numbers, or do we accept these as a preliminary until we've seen those? I'm not sure how that works, because if we approve them without seeing them, then it's difficult to go back and say, you know, there's a question or something. So I'm not sure exactly how to proceed until we see those numbers.
Well, Lori, this still needs to be presented to the full board. What the vote on today is not necessarily approving, because we can't, as a committee, vote to totally approve it. It's recommending to the full board for approval. We still have the board meeting for the rest of the trustees to also ask questions. Does that make sense? So I would be in favor of preliminary approval, you know, with the stipulation that we want to see the detail. And then even tomorrow night, those questions can be brought before the full board if we had any questions or concerns. But you'd be able to say to the full board, you've seen the detail, because you'd be able to get it later today and be able to look it over for tomorrow if you feel that's enough time. That's just my suggestion. Whatever you're comfortable with. Are we still online?
Yeah.
Lori, this is Cody. I'm sorry to interrupt it. Are you trying to talk to us? It looks like you're still muted.
I'm sorry. Yes, I
right.
was muted, double mute. I was double muted. Sorry about that. So I was saying that I would be okay with, proving these at the preliminary with the contingency that we'll see them before the meeting tomorrow night before I present them to the board. And then, as you said, having seen these, you know, we've voted to, you know, submit this preliminary. I'm okay with that, but I just want it noted that I want to make sure that I see it before I present it to the board tomorrow night.
So can I recommend some language? So possibly something like a motion from the committee as a recommendation to preliminarily accept the 22-23 technology budget proposal pending individual review by committee members.
That sounds very good. So I would like to make a motion to approve the preliminary budget based on approval by the committee.
And then pending approval or pending review of each individual member. So the idea is that what we're saying is that Brian and I will send all the details out to you all. If you look at the details, and if any member says, I don't get this, I don't understand this, then that gets pulled back, and there's not a recommendation tomorrow night. There'd be a recommendation maybe some other time.
Can either of you restate that motion?
Yeah, please.
I can try to restate if you want.
Yes, absolutely, please. If you, or Lori, either.
So,
Yeah.
so what we're looking for is a motion from the committee to recommend to the full board to preliminarily accept the 22-23 technology budget pending individual review of the budget details.
That's good.
That sounds,
An individual review of the details or
Budget.
by each committee member.
no, just individual review of the details. Individual review suggests each individual can review. So,
And I like that you put in the budget details because we have reviewed it, but we haven't reviewed the details.
not the details, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so do I need to ask for a motion then?
Yeah, ask for a motion, and if somebody likes that, they can just say, so moved. And Teresa will go from there.
So moved.
Okay.
This is Joyce Slay.
This is Michael, so moved.
Okay,
Thank you.
you could choose.
Okay.
One of us smooth, one of
Thank
us.
And the other will second.
Yep.
Okay. And then we'll get out the details this afternoon. And so, yeah, just quick vote, and then we'll do that. So,
Okay, so I'd like to take a vote to approve the motion, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, so the motion has passed that the preliminary budget will be approved based on the further review of the committee after tonight's numbers are received.
right.
Yes.
Yep.
Great.
Well, and this was a good discussion. Thank you for going into this, because it's important to understand the details, and you just don't understand some of these details until you've been through the cycle a couple of times. So it's all very good.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Brian, just for, the detailed, great questions, great discussion, and yeah, appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate it.
So Cody, if you can move, I think we can.
Well, I think we have to ask for other business or comments. I think we went through all of those, but
Right, and we did actually, Cody, did you put those printouts in here, or is it just in board docs?
Just in board docs.
It's just in board docs. So Brian, do you want to talk about this real quick? We actually pulled just a little bit of data from our reacting to some questions from the last meeting. So
Yeah, there's a couple of PDFs and board docs. I think it's under other business. It has you kind of asked about checkouts for the hotspots and the Chromebooks. So I put a
right. I'm on board docs. I'm on board docs. Teresa, could you help me find where I need to go?
Absolutely. It's under 6.1. Click on the content tab, public content.
So I'm on the main page, the featured page, and
okay.
then I need to go.
Okay, yeah, if you click on technology committee.
So yeah, that box is there right in the middle where it says MCPL Technology Committee.
Yes. Okay, I'm there.
And then
The agenda itself should pull up.
I always have to click on
Right.
View Agenda.
Oh, there it is. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I found it now.
Sure, you're welcome.
Yeah, and then when you click on 6.1, that's where those documents are Brian was talking about.
Scroll down to the middle of your page.
Thank you. So I'm on 6.1,
Okay.
but I don't see them. But it's I
Okay,
don't.
let's see, 6.1, let's see.
It's down on other business.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Other business and comments.
And then
Yeah,
if
other
you scroll down,
business.
public comment, content.
Okay. Lori, do you
Just
see?
click on other
Yeah.
business and comments, and then you'll have public content, and then Chromebook to go by branch, and then Wi-Fi to go by branch. Two documents.
Way to go, Michael. You become a pro from all that building committee stuff.
Yeah, it's yeah, I finally got it all figured out, I think. I shouldn't say that, but
I remember when we first went to these iPads. Oh my goodness. It
I
was
love
fun.
my iPad. I'll just have to say, I mean, I
That's
love
awesome.
this thing.
That's good to hear.
It's like having the world in your hand all the
Yeah.
time.
Lori, are you on
Yeah.
mute, perhaps?
No, I'm not on
Oh,
mute.
you're there. Okay.
I still
Yeah,
can't.
just take your
I
time.
still can't.
It's, yeah,
I
just
still
take your
can't find
time.
it.
What does
So
your
ready
screen
for
look
the-
like right now?
Would it be helpful
So,
for
I
me
mean-
as the host to show these documents?
go-
I can
yeah,
pull
go
them up.
ahead. Post
Yeah.
them, Lori.
Yes, if you
Just
could,
a-
I would really appreciate it,
That's
Cody.
fine.
Absolutely. Just a few moments.
Or I could share my screen and you could tell me where I'm going wrong, but I don't want to share
Oh, no
something I
worries.
shouldn't.
I am almost there. Helps if I click on the right things, though.
You're doing great, Lori. It's a lot to learn.
Yes.
I remember when we first went to iPads, it was a learning curve.
Lori, can you see that
And
screen
bird dogs.
right now?
For sure.
Now I can see Cody's screen right now,
Yay!
or whoever's
Yeah, that's
sharing.
Cody's screen. So what we're seeing there, that is the Chromebook by branch detail that Brian was able to put together. And so you can see, and I believe that this is comprehensive, but we'll find out here in just a second. But you can see which branches checked out the Chromebooks and at what level they were checked out. So you can see Raytown, North Independence, looks like Blue Springs South and Antioch are the most significant branches in terms of checkout of the Chromebooks. But looks like the largest checkout is Raytown at 6.
Yeah.
Is where that is. And of course, understanding our community,
Not surprising.
that's not surprising.
What is surprising is
So question, Michael, I have a question. I was blown away by the Antioch numbers.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at that earlier, it's like, why is that?
Yeah, Antioch's also not surprising. It's a first-ring suburb. It is a library that has traditionally been a high computer use library. I mean, in terms of people coming in and using Wi-Fi. There are some affluent neighborhoods near Antioch, but there are also a lot of Section 8 housing, particularly as you go further south toward the city of North Kansas City.
Right.
And so you tend to see a broad array of community, and certainly when you see more, at need communities, that's when you start to see more of this type of utilization.
Okay.
Brian, was this total for the program or what was this?
Yeah, this is total for the Chromebooks just started in December of 2021. So they haven't been out there for long yet. The Wi-Fi to go graph, they started in February of 2021. So they're a little over a year.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and pull up that one. And Brian, do you want to hit any highlights on this one?
It looks kind of similar. As far as the usage goes, there's a couple of exceptions. But yeah, it looks pretty similar as far as usage goes. There's been a little over, at the end of April, there was almost 5,100 checkouts. So the Chromebooks only had like 650 or something like that, but we just started it. So.
Yeah, to me, the surprising part about the Wi-Fi is that even though you do have a lot of the same sort of demographically challenged communities, for example, Antioch is also, we were talking about Antioch just a second ago, and Antioch's actually our #1 branch here. North Independence is up there. That one that one also kind of makes sense. Raytown has slid a little bit further back when they were so much higher on the other one. But then you do see some of our more affluent communities, like Woodneath, for example, and Eastleigh Summit up a little bit higher. But Eastleigh Summit is actually at the same level roughly as Excelsior Springs, which is a little bit more challenged community. So I think there's lots of different reasons, I think. I mean, and we could certainly look at some of the statistics in terms of utilization. In some cases, this is where it was checked out, not necessarily where the person lives. I mean, that's another thing to keep in mind, is that, say, for example, you do live, in North Kansas City, but you work at the Target that's there by Woodneath, then maybe you would pick it up at Woodneath, even though you live in Claycoma or Pleasant Hill. So that's just something to keep in mind. We could actually drill into that a little bit in terms of the surveys that we get. But, Brian, anything else to?
That's it. Just wanted to show you where they were checking out at and how much we've been doing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you. I was able to pull it up finally. Thank you.
Oh, good. I was going to suggest you bring in an iPad or something. I was going to walk you through it. So, good.
Yeah, I finally figured it out. It was on the far right. That's what I was having a hard time with. So where is Farview?
Farview is about 2.5, 3 miles to the east of this building. It's in Independence. It's sort of on the eastern edge of Independence.
Okay. Yeah. So now that we know these numbers, this has been, is this like a year? Is this like a year stats?
So
will we adjust?
Go ahead.
I just was wondering, would we adjust the Wi-Fi's? Maybe we don't need so many at some places and reallocate to some others. And the other question I have is, I know with everybody being home for COVID, it was kind of on everybody's minds. And I know that now that we're paying for these, do we need to do some more promotion? Letting the schools know they're available or any of that? Because I know that schools send out emails weekly to update parents of, hey, this is an opportunity for you. I wonder if we could send out an email to the schools to just let them know they're still available for kids for the summer.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We probably do need to do that again, especially with the hotspots, because they've been out for over a year. So we probably do need to circle back to that. So I appreciate that suggestion. Same on the Chromebooks. We kind of bundle that all under technology to go. So we could probably just do one blast when we do it. And then on the shuffling the devices around, we have, so all of our devices float to wherever they were. So they don't go back to their home branch is what I'm trying to say. So if I check it out at South Independence and I return it to North Independence, it just stays at North Independence for the next person. And then if somebody at another location needs it, then we just route it through our delivery system, and it gets to the other location. So they're moving around all the time. They don't actually have a home location where they stay at.
Okay. Yeah. I just I think it's a great thing for families, especially with summer coming and so many kids kind of unplug that don't have internet at home. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a tool that, while we have the schools that are sending those out, we've got a week and a half. If we could get that email at their tip, their fingers. I mean, some of the kids will be in summer school, so they'll still have their summer computers to use at home. But I know that a lot of the kids really struggle with Wi-Fi in the North Kansas City School District. And I just want to make sure that, we put that as a thing that, hey, this is, Wi-Fi to go. What is it? Because a lot of the families don't understand some of the technology. So I think if there was a way that we could say, hey, this is a hotspot that you can use with a Chromebook to get on the internet to allow your kids to read or to do games or whatever. I think explaining what it is, because you and I may know what Wi-Fi to go means, or Wi-Fi, I've got a hotspot, those words maybe that parents don't always know. if they don't have a lot of technology in their house, they may not have used it before. So I'm for making it, parent friendly for all parents. And Jocelyn, you could give your thoughts on that too. But I know that a lot of parents don't know what those opportunities are.
Yeah, I agree. So that's something we grapple with a lot here. If we try to call things what people would call them, we try not to call them something that's library lingo or an acronym or something like that. So yeah, I appreciate that.
One thing that I know has been helpful is multiple ways of getting the information out. People might see it on, and you guys do this. The more it's out there, the more people will see it. In my other lives, I find that one blast is not enough. And I know that the library does multiple and targeted and everything else, which gets it out there. But
they're included in the monthly newsletters and things like that. So it does go out as part of those.
Part of the issue is getting to people who aren't technology dependent. That's the issue everywhere. Is people that don't use technology don't have a way to get. So they have to see it when they come into a building or have a staff member tell them about it. Or just word of mouth. Maybe blast on Twitter.
Well,
yeah.
Sometimes the schools have easier ways to reach the parents. Like maybe we could ask the teachers, do you have like a text message blast to just say, hey, here's a link to the library, like they've got technology available for you, and send it as a text message, or maybe they would phone it out to their people just as a because we get phone calls almost every week from our schools, and we get newsletters, and then we also get text messages. So they may have a way to reach people. And I agree to your point, Jocelyn, that, they may not have email because they don't have internet, but they might have another way, and the schools have a much better chance of reaching people sometimes than we even do, just because they've got those kids every day.
I know at least Summit Schools has you guys right there on their library page.
Mm-hmm.
So, parents tend to read those emails. You're right, Lori. Parents do tend to read that.
I'm just sending an email message to Katie, our youth services manager, asking her if we are bundling our messaging about technology to go with what we're also sending out to all the school districts about the summer library program. So as we're talking to people about participating, coming into the library, reading books, checking out books, earning prizes, are we also telling them, oh yeah, by the way, you can also be checking out technology while you're here, which because we're already talking to those families. So we'll see what Katie says about that.
It may also take, I know for me, it also takes maybe presenting it in, hey, you're taking a trip this summer?
Yeah, it's
get some Wi-Fi to keep your kids busy, so that they know that, oh, I can take it on a trip. I can do this.
Yep.
Because if they're not technology savvy, they won't.
Right. Yep. It's always
Yeah. I just know that as many times as we can get it in front of parents. I mean, I know I've got 4 kids, and sometimes I just miss things, and then I'll see it the next time, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was an option. So I think it's great.
You are correct. They've said for years that you have to repeat a message. What is it, 7, 8 times before it sticks, and we're no different. We're no different.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, that's wonderful. Thanks for doing that. Is there any other business that we need to talk about?
all I have.
Yeah, so I think that's all we've got. Thanks. Good.
Okay, then do we? I don't think we have any visitors either, do we?
We have no visitors, and we had no visitor comment.
No.
Okay, so no.
Okay,
Thanks
then is
for
there
all
a
of your
motion to
attention.
adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting. This is Michael.
I'll second.
All right, so let's vote to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? Any abstainers? Okay, then we pass. This meeting is adjourned.